Jupiter in Libra is the lover. It's the essence of a life lived in pursuit of connection, of expansion through relationships, of understanding the intricate dance of giving and receiving, and learning the lessons written in every encounter or relationship. From their earliest moments, this placement sets the child apart, giving them a subtle radar for fairness, imbalance, and relational energy. They notice what others miss, the tiny inequalities in attention, the unspoken debts in friendship, and the quiet ways that love can be conditional or even transactional. Even as a child, they carry the unspoken philosophy that the world makes sense through relationships, that harmony is not just desired, but essential. People with Jupiter in Libra, they often attract others effortlessly, not because they chase attention, but because they radiate generosity, warmth, and understanding. They have the unique gift of creating spaces where dialogue, negotiation, and intimacy all feel really natural and expansive. Their love is abundant, expansive, and idealistic in its aim. They want to give, they want to receive, and they want to co-create connection on a level that feels larger than themselves. Most of all, they want an equal. Now, as adolescence arrives, Jupiter in Libra becomes restless and hungry. Its energy is really magnified into a type of emotional veracity. You know, every crush, every friendship, every infatuation is really amplified. Our laboratory for testing the laws of attraction and reciprocity, and of course, fairness. So, they may fall in love with the idea of a person as much as the person themselves. They're drawn to charm, to beauty, to intellect, elegance, wit. And the danger is, subtle but seductive. Charm can lead them into people-pleasing or endless compromise. Most of all, the sacrifice of their own desires in the name of maintaining balance. Codependency is not an abstract risk. It's the quiet, constant pull to meet others' needs while ignoring one's own, to preserve peace at the cost of authenticity. Here, the first opportunity for conscious work appears, noticing when giving is actually genuine and when it is a pattern of avoidance or even just fear. Learning to assert their preferences, even small ones, and experiencing the discomfort of saying no, that really lays the groundwork for lifelong lessons. So, how does this manifest in early adulthood? Well, the lessons deepen and they often strike with blunt clarity. Relationships are obviously going to become mirrors. They show patterns of imbalance, misaligned values, or even hidden desires. So they might meet partners whose charm, masks their duplicity, whose fairness is kind of selective, or whose love comes with subtle conditions, coercive control. Here, the shadow of Jupiter in Libra becomes undeniable. Idealization, the temptation to see only the light, to worship the mirror instead of the person, all of these things, they can lead to repeated disappointment for the Jupiter in Libra native. Avoidance of conflict, the desire to maintain harmony at all costs, this can really result in a lot of quiet resentment or very slow erosion to the self-esteem. So working consciously with these patterns, that really means cultivating discernment, learning to speak hard truths without fear, and observing when attraction is aligned with values versus when it is an emotional illusion. One of the first major lessons of Jupiter in Libra is fairness. Life, it's going to repeatedly demonstrate that love cannot survive as transaction. A delicate balancing act measured only by concession or appeasement. They're learning that, approaching relationships as a collaboration of equals is necessary. They need to learn how to voice their needs and their expectations, and to tolerate friction that arises when boundaries are asserted. This is not always easy, and this is a huge challenge for Jupiter in Libra. Practically, this means paying attention to moments of imbalance. Are they the ones that are always giving more attention, more energy, more emotional labor? Do they constantly modify their behavior to prevent conflict? Awareness is the first step, but the second is practice. Small acts of assertion, honest expression of feelings, and mutual negotiation in everyday interactions. These are the acts that really teach the body and the mind that equity is achievable. So over time, this really cultivates confidence in relational judgment and the courage to walk away from situations that are toxic or unbalanced. Now, the second lesson here is authenticity. Jupiter in Libra, it really craves refinement, beauty, elegance. But life insists that the ideal is an illusion. Partners will be flawed, and circumstances, they're going to be messy sometimes. And the pursuit of perfect harmony is absolutely impossible. So here, Jupiter's expansive energy becomes a gift rather than a curse, allowing them to stretch beyond disappointment, to tolerate imperfection, and to see connection as alive and evolving rather than static. Consciously working with this lesson requires mindfulness and reflective practice, noticing when the mind idealizes or obsesses, and grounding themselves in reality through honest appraisal of situations, and really celebrating the ordinary moments of relational intimacy that are often overlooked. They may practice gratitude for small gestures, cultivate patience with human inconsistency, and really learn to love as a living, breathing experience rather than just like a static art form. Jupiter in Libra is also a teacher of moral awareness and love. They will encounter partners who are ethically challenged, relationships that feel intoxicating but are misaligned with their values, and attractions that really highlight the tension between desire and principle. So growth here, it demands discernment, not judgment. Working with this lesson involves reflection on personal ethics. What behaviors feel expansive and nurturing, and which feel constricting or manipulative. Journaling, therapy, and discussion with trusted mentors can actually help really clarify these boundaries. The expansion comes not from blind forgiveness or relentless pursuit of the beloved, but from learning to love more wisely, to act with integrity, and to recognize that attraction alone does not justify or compromise their values. Into their 30s and beyond, Jupiter in Libra begins to really integrate these lessons. Love becomes a conscientious practice rather than a performance or experiment. They understand that expansion comes from collaboration, from honesty, and from mutual growth. They learn to navigate the dynamic rhythms of intimacy, to hold space for others without losing themselves, and to accept that balance is not the absence of friction, but the skillful negotiations of life's inherent instability. So, working with this stage often involves deep relational awareness, noticing, reoccurring patterns, choosing partners aligned with values, and cultivating practices that reinforce equity and authenticity, such as shared decision-making, emotional check-ins, and honest dialogue about needs and boundaries. The journey of Jupiter in Libra is really kind of paradoxical and layered. It begins with fascination and longing, and it moves through idealization, heartbreak, and repeated lessons in fairness. And it really culminates in mastery, the ability to love expansively, ethically, and authentically. And so to work consciously with this placement is to embrace discomfort as a teacher and to practice generosity paired with discernment, to see beauty without sacrificing integrity, and to approach intimacy as a real, living, breathing thing, ever-evolving dialogue rather than a static ideal, for example. So the ultimate expansion occurs when they learn to meet another human being as an equal, as a true partner, as a companion, as a friend, right? And they choose again and again and again to grow together. That is the lesson here. We need to find someone on the same growth track. Jupiter in Libra teaches that love is never a prize, a mirror, or a performance. It actually is a force that challenges, that transforms and elevates. Its lessons are long and sometimes painful, but they really yield a relational life that is imbued with clarity, generosity, integrity, and the intoxicating, boundless possibilities of true connection. This is the lover who emerges from the journey not as naive or idealistic, but as wise and courageous, really fully capable of creating relationships that are transformative. This is, the path of heartbreak and, rebuilding oneself, the conscientious practice that illuminates the ultimate truth, right? The deep expansion in this life comes not from perfection or possession or avoidance, but from meeting another fully and really the act of giving and receiving in equal measure, allowing love to be like the teacher it was always meant to be. Now, Jupiter, it also represents our children and the way in which we grow as a parent, right? The way in which we find fortune or feel lucky or blessed. So Jupiter in Libra as a parent is very interesting. These parents, they tend to really value fairness, obviously, and balance above all else. So they may believe that children thrive in environments where peace and equality are the foundation. They want their children to learn how to cooperate, to see other perspectives, and how to navigate the real complexities of human relationships with grace. So they often model real gentleness and diplomacy, preferring to guide rather than control, and to discuss rather than to dictate. Jupiter in Libra parents, they believe in teaching through reason and through emotional intelligence. They want their children to understand the impact of kindness, the importance of boundaries that respect others, and the power of compromise as a bridge rather than surrender. So they tend to raise children who are socially conscious, fair-minded, and deeply aware of the emotional nuances that shape connection. These parents often encourage creativity, culture, social awareness, and cooperation, showing their, children how beauty and the arts can be both a blessed inner and outer experience. Jupiter and Libra parents will definitely value the arts and often see like creative expression as some form of essential development. They may, like, for example, encourage their children to explore music or painting, theater, dance, or fashion, not just as hobbies, but as real languages of the soul. Because to them, art is how we learn empathy and perspective, the beauty of the human experience. So they understand that art, teaches balance. It teaches emotional intelligence in ways that like words cannot alone teach. So these parents, they often fill their homes with beauty, whether it's through thoughtful decor, books, or shared creative rituals, believing that an aesthetically nourishing environment cultivates inner harmony. They also tend to see artistic engagement as a path towards emotional regulation and moral understanding. A child drawing their feelings or performing on stage or learning about the design of a house or a dress, it becomes a mirror of Jupiter and Libra's belief that, beauty will heal. At the same time, they may have to watch for moments when the pursuit of aesthetic harmony, it can turn into perfectionism or even just pressure to appear more refined, keep up with the Joneses. But they tend to really raise children that see life itself as a canvas, who understand that kindness and fairness and creativity, these are all forms of art in motion. Jupiter in Libra might say that the universe itself is this grand conversation, not a competition like many people think it is. They're really learning to believe that life is less about outshining others and more about discovering the beauty in everyone around us. We all have something unique within us. So they see value not in winning or being the most, but in noticing the potential and the uniqueness in every person. Because to them, the world becomes richer when we celebrate connection over competition, when we learn from difference instead of measuring ourselves against it, and, of course, when we treat each encounter as an opportunity to reflect the harmony and balance that already exists within all of us. I would say that true abundance for them is relational, and that joy, it multiplies when it's shared. And that's, the art of living, the ability to see the divine in each other rather than just a tally of who stands tallest and most beautiful. Jupiter in Libra is unpacking these lessons. Their philosophy is that we grow not by dominating the world, but actually by holding it gently, by noticing its rhythms and learning to move in step with the people and the experiences that surround us. Because in this way, they treat the world as a mirror of possibility, showing that when we honor the balance and the beauty in others, we inevitably discover it within ourselves as well. Jupiter in Libra reminds us that life, its richest lessons are found not in conquest, but in connection. True growth comes when we honor the beauty in others as much as we honor it within ourselves. Harmony is not a goal to achieve, but a practice to live. And abundance flows most freely when it's shared. So in seeing the world and each person in it as a reflection of possibility, again, we learn that the greatest wisdom is the courage to meet life with an open heart. They are learning that peace is not the absence of difference, but actually the presence of care. So here is to Jupiter in Libra, the lover, the one on the beautiful journey of trying to find the equal, a life filled with art, beauty, and reverence. With style, flair, and panache, their life is really a work of art.